backstroke, he says. I figured you were a diver, you're the cannonball expert. But that was uncalled for, he's not being roasted. Now to bring it all home, somebody who knows him better than anybody in the room, except maybe his mother, his older brother, Bob, is going to come up and say a few words, all very kind.
Well, before I begin, I also want to say how honored I am to be here today, to be asked to come in from New York and join all of you here in beautiful Bowling Green, Kentucky, as we take a few moments to celebrate the career accomplishments of my younger brother, Dave Gorman. Dave's a graduate of Western Kentucky as a middle school science teacher in Knoxville, Tennessee. Dave's inspired an entire generation of kids to love nature, to encourage them to care about the environment. Dave was recently named Teacher of the Year in the school district. Let's get back here. What's the technology here? All right, there. See, the reason I admired Dave so much is that when he gets involved in a youth project, and this is an outdoor science lab that he created, Dave only does it for one reason, because he wants to encourage and support children. He's not like some of the reprobates you read about who get involved in helping kids and doing kids projects because they're trying to pad their resume before they run for political office. Listen. Got the technology here. There we go. Yeah. So anyway, Doug has 7 siblings, and as you can imagine, over the years we've had a kind of a running debate over what role we may have played in the development of this train wreck of a life you see sitting before you today. And you're going to hear a lot of things. You've already heard a lot of things about Doug, but the siblings wanted, if there's one thing that you remember that you hear of all the things you've heard, we hope you'll remember it's not our fault. We didn't do this. And this provides, of course, unfortunately, a little solace to my poor saintly mother who's here today. Imelda Gorman is, I got to tell you, to this day, she's still often racked with guilt when she considers the kind of man that Doug has become. And the siblings have asked me to ask all of you today if you'd do something, if you wouldn't mind, if you'd be so kind as to do something that can bring a lot of comfort to our family. You've all seen that movie, Good Will Hunting, and you're all familiar with that cathartic scene where Robin Williams turns to Matt Damon and says, "Will, it's not your fault." I'd like everybody in the room to turn your chairs towards my mom right here, Imelda Gorman. And on the count of 3, I'd like everyone to say, "Imelda, it's not your fault." This would be very helpful. So it's important though when you say it, you need to have about a half second between the Imelda and "it's not your fault." So, all right, we ready? On 3. 1, 2, 3.
Imelda, it's not your fault.
Thank you, everybody. Let the healing begin. Part of Doug's problems I've always thought had a lot to do with birth order. If you're the 8th of 8 kids, well, everybody's looking out for your mothers, sisters, you're the baby of the family. But when you're the 7th of 8 kids, well, you tend to get overlooked, especially at mealtime. My mom fixed a lot of what I call ladle food, soups, chili, and stew, and she just put that big pot in the middle of the table of all 8 kids, and if you weren't a scrapper, well, you didn't eat. Now, Doug was a loner growing up, but he didn't have much choice. None of us could stand hanging around with him, but The Gormans did try to encourage Doug, and we did that primarily through sports. Now, we all played a lot of different sports, but there was one sport that we all played, and that was basketball. This photo was taken a while ago. My son's now 36, but there's the 6 brothers, and we always liked to play basketball. And I got to tell you, I'm not going to try to tell you that we were the greatest basketball players of all time, great shooters and ball handlers, but I will say this. The Gormans did have one God-given talent, and we all had the hops long before any of us had ever heard of Hopkinsville. And I always told my brothers, because I was the oldest of the family, they'd come to my high school and college games, and I'd always say the same thing. I said, fellas, if you use your God-given talents, you can play and compete and be successful even against taller players. And all my brothers were great leapers, but you've already heard mention about Doug's lack of interest and effort. And I often found myself saying to Doug, when you take a jump shot now, don't forget to jump. Doug said something very interesting to me. He said, I don't need to jump higher, I just need to play against shorter people. Now, as bothersome as that was to me, it actually bothered our brother Jim even more. Jim used his God-given talents, and in 1975, he received a full ride scholarship to Morgan State University in Baltimore. That might not sound very unique today, but back in 1975, our brother Jim was the first European American to ever receive a basketball scholarship at Morgan State University. Since the term European American doesn't fit very well in the headline, this is how the Baltimore Sun reported it. It was a simpler time back then. Our brother Jim wasn't a token white player on the Morgan State team, and by his sophomore year, he was actually a starter. Here's a picture of the coaching staff of Morgan State and the starting 5 players. Jim's on the right. Okay, I don't want to belabor this. I just wanted you to have some appreciation why my brother Jim was so disappointed in Doug's attitude about, I don't need to jump higher, I just need to play against shorter people. Got one last photo here if it'll ever show up. Yeah. See this picture, Doug? Yeah. See how high our brother Jim's jumping? You know why he's jumping so high? You see anybody in this photo who resembles Slim Nash? After Doug got out of college, we began to follow his career here as get honors, awards, and publicity. And I think, well, you already heard why. The reason we all knew about Doug was because he is a bragger. And but when Doug would get some honor or award or some publicity, I would always say to him, hey, congratulations, way to go, nice job, keep up the good work. But you might want to keep things in perspective. Your brothers and sisters have also won some honors and awards and gotten some publicity, and well, let's just not get carried away. And Doug said, hey, an award's an award, an honor's an honor, and publicity's publicity. And I said to him, well, hey, you know, I know when you got that award from Chamber of Commerce, Small Businessman of the Year, congratulations, nice job, way to go, keep up the good work. But your brother Tom got an award one time. This is from the Pioneer Award. This was from the Society of Cable Tele-Engineers of America. And this was the Pioneer Award that he got. And the award you got was a local award. Our brother Tom got a national award. And what did you say? Hey, an award's an award. And I said, you know, I know you're being honored for all these things you do in the community, and you got involved in Soapbox Derby, and you built a couple of Soapbox Derby cars. Our brother Tom, 25 years ago, oversaw the construction of the first fiber optic cable line under the Potomac River that linked Maryland and Virginia. And what did you say? Hey, construction's construction. You sent me this photo about the opening of the SkyPack Center and said, you had a little note on there, helped open this bad boy. said, congratulations, nice job, way to go, keep up the good work. But remember, back during the first Gulf War, the Iraqis went into Kuwait and they destroyed the U.S. Embassy. And a number of people, including our sister Susan, were sent to Kuwait so in 1994 we could open a new United States Embassy. That's what it looks like. And so what you did was a local opening. What our sister was involved in was an international opening. And what did you say? Hey, an opening's an opening. You sent me this story from the New York Times, and I read it, and told me, hey, I got me some good publicity in here, and I did. It was a great story about the relationship between Western Kentucky and Bowling Green. And I read through the story, and sure enough, Doug Gorman is quoted in the story in the New York Times. In the 97th paragraph, I found the story. I said, well, you know, that's great, Doug. I know you're very proud to have appeared in the page 823 of the New York Times, but come on, man, our brother's on the cover of freaking Rolling Stone. And what did you say? Hey, publicity's publicity. Lately, last 10 years, you go to these concerts and you'll be out in the audience, buy a ticket, and then you send this family his photo and said, hey, spent the evening with Michael Bublé. Spent the evening with Tim McGraw. Spent the evening with Taylor Swift. Now, this photo was taken before the concert. By the time you guys moved back to where your seats were, I looked at the photos. I couldn't tell if you spent the evening with Taylor Swift or Boy George. Need I remind you, our sister Ann's in the entertainment business, and here's a picture of our sister Ann's when she spends the evening with celebrities because they invited her to dinner. Here's a sister Ann with Anthony Hopkins. Here she is with Hugh Grant. Here she is with Mel Gibson. And by the way, my sister Ann wanted me to note that after Mel Gibson was arrested with a DWI and he made all his racial and ethnic accusations against the arresting officer, Ann stopped returning Mel's phone calls. Publicity's publicity. Celebrity's celebrity. I really hate you, I swear. And last, there was this. You sent me this photo recently and said, hey, hanging out with the president. I said, well, I live in New York, I don't know who this is. I said, this is the president of Western Kentucky University. I said, well, that's pretty cool. I mean, you're hanging out with a president, you're not hanging out with the president. What did you say? A president's a president. Doug, for the last time, this is not hanging out with the president. This is hanging out with the president. I'm going to assume that some of you are not smitten with George Bush, so I batted another photo here. This is a photo of me hanging out with Slim Nash's girlfriend. Get it come up here, so. So, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, before you render your verdict today, I'd like to make a closing statement here. To Doug Gorman, I say this. There's nothing you've accomplished in your life in which you have not been outdone by one of your brothers or sisters. And to Bowling Green, I say this. It has taken all 7 siblings collectively working overtime for 30 years trying to keep up with this guy. Can't begin to tell you what a great tribute, honor it is for us to have a member of our family that we all admire and we all look up to. From the bottom of all our hearts and on behalf of the entire Gorman family, we truly love you, Dave Gorman.
Get his mic back down here for a normal person. Hey, Doug, I never thought it would be possible. I really feel bad for you. Man, what a compliment. complex you must have coming from that family.